I really am excited to talk about change. I'm excited to take you through some of my story. I'm excited to take you through some, a method that I've created in the last kind of 15 years. I'd say maybe co-created within my journey. And so I do want to start with just a broad brush of my journey, because what I know that I know that I know, I'm actually 54, so I stepped on stage at 54. I love that. But the interesting part of that journey is I also stepped on stage in my 40s. And so when we talk about change, you're all in this community for multiple different reasons, right? And when I get into the method, I'm going to talk about the different areas of our life. And it's a beautiful thing to go towards change, but often we might fear it. We might have stories that we tell ourselves, right? And so you're all on here for different reasons, part of this amazing community. And what I've come to realize in my life is that no matter what that change you seek or that goal you have, I know Kim talked about new goals here. The elements of change and transformation, whether they're starting a new business, creating new money, looking for reinventing yourself, maybe wherever you are in life, things have changed that you didn't set out to. And now you're faced with, how do I get through this? I'd say, how do we grow through that? And so the foundations are the same. And so let me start with my story. And really, I will start it about 15 years ago when my youngest baby was 3. I had 3 kids in 3 years. And so when we're talking about January and we're talking about, transformations from the inside out, January is always the time, we're starting this, we're starting that. And so I had sat on the couch when my kids were young, reading fitness magazines and making up all the reasons why the people in these magazines were fit and that I couldn't possibly be. I was 38 at the time. I had these 3 children. And so I went on my first body transformation adventure at the age of 38. And at 39, I stepped on my first fitness stage. And that was a bucket list thing. And that was honestly the first time I realized that body transformation and transformation without mindset transformation don't give you lasting results. I only know that looking back now, right? We learn a lot about ourselves when we look back. And then I started into a world of online entrepreneurship. And at 41, I went through a divorce. I'd been a stay-at-home mom for 11 years. And at 41 years old, I was like, okay, now I'm, here. I'm going to have a job, because that's what you do. You get a job. And I've got these children, but I've been in these children's life all the time. And there must be another way. And that was the first time I was introduced to the world of network marketing in 2011. And I saw that as an opportunity to choose my hours with time, with energy, with skill development, right? Being compliant, working for it, and being able to create a life for myself. And that really opened me up to personal development and growth that is inside of these beautiful communities. I'm a fan and an advocate for this industry because of the way people pour into you and see the greatness in you. And that's what I love, that, Christy and the gang are here giving this to you, because it's not about just one thing. It's about how do we awaken within people their potential. And I had to see that within myself, how the others see that in me, and then allowed me to kind of step forward and grow and do other things and work on my skills and be around people that were dreamers and be around people that saw the good and were always there to help elevate other people. And when you're around other people that see things a certain way, you naturally gravitate towards that. That's why the community that you're around, the people that you're around, the things you're listening to, it is so important for what you're doing. And so starting this year off with this type of conversation, Christy mentioned a book, she mentioned my success. And I even sit back and say, like, how in the heck, when I was 38 years old and blessed to be a mom, and that I had no other idea of anything, I had no career, I had no how did I get here? And this is what I love, is that this surrendering to outcomes and having goals. And we're going to talk about, my method of how to kind of navigate these different things. But I just want to say to each of you here listening, and, thank you for those on the camera. And I'm a queen of working out and listening. So I get it if you can't be on camera. And for those of you that catch the replay, I would double high five you, because I know the step to kind of go back and watch the recording is extra. So I want to give you a shout out for that. But I just want you to all know that you're in the right space with these people. I'm an energy girl. And so you never know what's possible for you. In fact, I can promise you the biggest dreams you have in your soul, you have more than even that available to you. And so we get to start here, and it is my honor to be here. So what I want to talk about is number one, change. I realized that, you know, and maybe I'm not the only one that has thought like, am I the only human on the planet that sees the world this way? And what I love about this industry and this world is that most of us see the world, the glass half full and overflowing, right? And especially I know Christy very well. So anytime you spend with her, you can't help but absolutely like transform the way that you think, and her energy is absolutely contagious. And so the way we think about anything, change, right? Change in a new year, change in a new opportunity, change in a new skincare routine, right? Like all these things have us like, oh, I don't know, I've been using this for a long time, or I've been doing this. And so our brain starts to take us on this journey. And when you can see change as a necessary part, right, as something that is beautiful. I mean, I might sound like a live meme, but the seasons change for a reason, and things change for a reason. And so I feel that so many of us are scared to change. We go to Starbucks and we order our Choca Mocha Loca Floopy Tapa Tapa, with a half a twist of something like it's just automatic. We get it all the time. And we take the same route to work, and we, wear the same pair of shoes, and we use the same magic pen or whatever that is, right? Because we're so into these habits and we're ingrained in them, and our body is just dying to have this certainty. And so anything about change makes us feel uncertain. And that's where we're like, oh, no, no. And we start having this feeling. And what I've come to realize is that feeling is really a sign to move forward. That feeling is something to run towards, to investigate, and to really start diving deeper into what is possible. So if it's all right with you, I'd love to take you through something that I have called the method for more. And by more, I don't mean like dollar bills more and all that jazz, although that's absolutely fabulous. But you don't get that without becoming more within. And so to me, it's more joy, more happiness, understanding like what actually makes Angela happy, what makes Brian happy, what makes Kim happy. We are in this gorgeous world of social media and all these ways for us to see things, but it can also start to cloud what our vision is. And I know when Christy asked me to first chat and come on here today, we were talking about vision in January and all of these things. And so my method for more is really a sequence of steps that when I look back on, whether it was a physical transformation in my 40s, I went through breast cancer at 49. I went through divorce. I had blended family. My children are now 20, 22, and 23. I had teenagers in those, I call it the panini years because I don't need to call it anything else. So I have lived a life with pretty much every, challenge. My mother passed away. I don't live in the same city. I had success and then not success. I had $0 bank accounts. I had 7-figure bank accounts. And so I just want you to know that I do come off as obnoxiously happy, but that is a result of the amount of dips and lows that I've had in life. And so these steps that I'm going to teach to you are what I used myself and continue to use to pull myself forward when life, I call it life lifes, because life lifes. That's the beauty of life. It lifes. And, we must have those times to appreciate these. And so I want to start there. Okay. So Christy, slow me down or whatever. I get so excited and we might be here for 4 hours. So everyone get a cup of tea and get comfy.
You're doing great.
I'm kidding. So the first step in this method for more is about finding your focus, because maybe I'm the only one, but I can have a lot of thoughts in my head and I can want to like change all the things at once. So January is a perfect time for that. I'm going to get rich. I'm going to get skinny. I'm going to get, whatever. Oh, this is my year. And so finding your focus is the key. And that is, maybe you've heard about the wheel of life. So you look at your life, you look at your career, your passions, the faith and spirituality, your health and wellness, your bank account, what's important to you and all the little different segments that you have in life. Okay. And then you are really just kind of looking at them and giving yourself a score. And I'm always one to remind everybody, be graceful with yourself, be amazing, right? We sometimes be like, oh, my finances are a 2, right? And it's just feedback. It's just learning some information. And so you want to look at the different areas in your life, and there's 1 or 2 areas, you probably already know it right now, that you know that you want to put a little bit more effort and attention into, right? Because we can do a lot of things, but when our focus is scattered, then we're scattered. I'm the queen of multitasking and all the things, but I understand to move the needle forward, we want to dial in the focus a little bit. So finding your focus is really the first step in this method for more. What area in your life are you looking to focus in? And to be honest, every area pretty much is connected. So the one that is the more of the sticky point for you maybe right now, when you can focus on that area, it's going to start to affect the other areas. Case in point, my health and wellness went on a swing, away from top energy and feeling great. And it wasn't a coincidence that, my business and other things started to go down as well. And so as I started to dial up the other way, everything else started to attach to it. So you don't have to change everything. You get to think of what's the area that I want to focus on. That's the first part of that. Okay.
Carol,
Yes.
what would be the areas? So you mentioned health and wellness.
I break it down into purpose, career, personal life, your environment. So where you live, then that can be like house, it can be that kind of thing. Joy and happiness and joy, because that's a separate thing. Then, and then spirituality and faith. Those are usually the main ones. Finances, spirituality, joy, happiness, environment, where are you living, personal life. You can have relationships, could be family relationships, could be love relationships. You get to decide. Purpose/career.
And then, so in each of these areas,
Yep.
you're going to score yourself from like a 1 to 10. And
Yeah, I love to do a life wheel. If you Google life wheel, I learned it from Tony Robbins. And so it's just a circle, and then there's a center in the middle, right? And then little pies out for each section. So career, love, finances, that kind of thing. And if zeros in the middle and tens on the end, then you can score yourself. This will come with you can score yourself, right? From a 0 to 10 on where are you in this different segment of your life. And then you can look. And again, that's where the grace comes in, because you might be like, everything's a 0. I've been there, right? And so you start to look at, okay, where am I going to focus? And it is just feedback for you to kind of look at where you want to focus first.
thank you.
Okay, I love it. So then we go to the next step in the method, and I call this the cast of characters. And I don't know if any of you have ever seen the movie Inside Out. It's a Disney movie, and it's about this, girl, and she's got all of these different characters in her head, and they're all parts of the movie. And I remember seeing it with my kids thinking like, this is exactly what we have going on. And so I one of the things that I love to do, and more recently tap into it a lot, as I created then the U3 framework. But case in point, you get to create whatever you want, because it's your stuff. So you get to be a creator. I find that lately I'm like, I created, and I'm like, but I did, so that's part of like kind of owning ourselves, and what my trust your magic thing is about, because we get to be these spectacular humans on this earth. So the cast of character is the voices in your head, and you are not your thoughts. You're the thinker of your thoughts. And if you've ever heard, your thoughts create your reality and the feeling is the secret, there's a lot of masterful testaments in the personal development space that have stood the test of time. And when I started really paying attention to language and the way I talk to myself, things really started to change. I really did think that could not be possible. Just let me work harder to have things. But the language that you use really does predict kind of where you're going to go. So the cast of characters allows me and anybody that I'm sharing with to kind of step outside of ourselves. And the U3 framework starts with our inner critic. And we all know that. I love to name her. Mine's Krusty Carol. And that's the voice in your head that is telling you, this isn't going to work, or you're too old for that, or, are you going to start on another diet, or whatever that is. It's, when your inner critic is talking, when you feel, and when you're telling yourself that you can't. And it just like that feeling, that feeling that's there. And so when you can understand that's just your brain, who, even though we have amazing technology, this is still the brain that was created when humans were created. And so that brain is, thinks it's saving you from a tiger, but you're taking that as it's saving me from this diet. Right. And we start to really listen to that voice. And so then I love to teach people that we all have an inner guide, an inner coach. I'm sorry. And I know that you all have that, because if I asked you for some advice, you'd give me advice. And have you ever caught yourself saying to a friend or family member or coworker, some advice, and then you say, I should really take my own advice, right? Because you've got great advice because you've taken yourself out of it. So I can give April some advice on something that she needs that might be exactly what I need. And so if you can learn to tap into your inner coach, your inner guide, your inner friend, then you have proven to yourself that you have a different frame of reference than maybe what the inner critic is telling you. And then the other one is your inner guide, which to me is like your soul, your calling. That takes a while to kind of get really tapped into. And that guide is what got you on this call. That guide is what brought you into this community. That feeling of like, yeah, this is going to be something that I want to try, right? The critic might have jumped up and said, "What are you doing?" Right? But the guide is like, "These are great people. This is something to go after." And that guide feeling, that soul feeling, it's the butterflies. It's the like, oh my gosh, it's that heart palpitations. And we've all felt that before, but oftentimes we spend a lot of time, listening to the critic. And so really understanding who's talking right now is a very powerful tool. Practice, everything takes practice, takes awareness. When you have the thoughts start spiraling out of control, I love to journal. I love to write things down. I'm going to show you that as one of the lessons as well. And just take myself away from my thoughts and ask myself, like, is this true? Is this something that I can control? A lot of our fears and doubts come from us telling us stories and making these stories that, all of a sudden we're going into what's going to happen in 2030 because of what we decide today. And we really don't know. And so some of the blessings, I call them blessing lessons, of things like cancer and divorce and hardships in my life, have been the ways that I've realized that looking forward to the outcome that I know nothing about is not serving me in any capacity. And so how can I stay in the present? How can I focus on the thoughts? How can I tap into my coach, what I would tell Christy if she came to me, and then my guide? And so the cast of characters is something that I really, really love to teach, because understanding that our thoughts are not our reality and we get to control them is probably one of the most profound things I've learned in my life. So the third lesson is I called Who is She? And so you can add who is he as well. I work with women, so a lot of my things are that space, but it works for fabulous men as well. And so this is what I call like proof of possibility. And we can find proof for all things, right? So we can find proof that things aren't going to work, that insert whatever it is that you want to talk about. We can find proof of that. I could find proof of how there was no possible way that a woman in her 50s going through all these things could ever get fit. But then I found women that were 70 who did it. And so we can find proof for all things. And so that who is she, who is he, I love to just help people navigate the question I ask. And I'm going to ask you this, and then I'm going to pause for like 30 seconds now. I want you to think of one or two or three people that you really admire. They could be living humans. You could not know them. They could be superstars, whatever. I mean, we got superstars all over this Zoom here right now. Everyone's a superstar. But think about people, whether it's how they parent, whether it's how they do business, whether it's how they, their energy they have, whether, I know for me, a lot of it was, how they ran their business or how they were speakers or different things like that. Just take a minute and write down whatever names pop up. You can think of different categories. You can just think of people that you follow on social media, celebrities, that kind of thing. Just think of people that you're like, oh my gosh, I love how they do this, or I love how how they dress, the things they wear. I love how they parent. I love how they give back. So just I'm gonna be quiet for a few seconds and just write a few names down. Take a sip of water. Then as you have the names down, I want you to just take another few seconds and write down words that come up of why you wrote those names down. So if Christy was one of my people, I would be heart-driven leader, ray of sunshine, beautiful, loving mother, incredible friend, super awesome style, gorgeous long hair, whatever. So whoever you wrote, Patrick, I'd be like, he's an amazing owner. He's just incredible. He's such a visionary, super wise, whatever it is. I'll just take a second. So write down words of these people of why they show up to you as somebody that you admire. They could be confident. Just write as many words as you can. Okie dokie. And what I want you to do is on that paper that you have all these qualities of people, I want you to write at the top, if you have room, or at the side, or just a bolder print, your name, and put like Patrick is, Perry is, Risa is, Kim is. Because what I learned is that we only see in people what we have in ourselves. And so the people that we look at and we admire for the qualities that they are, you only would recognize something that is inside of you. And each one of us here on this call could pick one person, but we would all see different things within that person. And so that ability to understand that who is she, who is he, it's this person, an element of what you're seeing here. And so as we step forward into a new year, into new adventures, into new things, tapping into the qualities of this person, the habits of this person becomes a very powerful frame of reference. I remember in one of my first companies, I would ask, like, what would she do? How would she lead a call? How would she answer this objection? That kind of thing. And so that type of part of the method for more is having proof of possibility of a greater you. And when I say that, I don't mean that you right now is not enough. That is something that I always want to remind everybody. This desire for more does not mean you're not enough right now. This desire for change, like change is required, but it doesn't mean you're not absolutely spectacular, fabulous right now, right? You're just getting and untapping and stepping into this new level of you, this new version of you. And so these qualities that you wrote down are awaiting you to kind of match up and meet them. And so as we seek change, as we move towards transformation in any of those kind of areas that you picked at the beginning, then it becomes who you are being in the process. What habits do you have? And I learned not so long ago, really, this concept of it's not the program, it's not the podcast, it's not the workout, it's not the business, it's who are you when you are embarking on that? Who are you when you're listening to that? And so if our inner critic is running, right, then we're hearing things and we're telling ourselves why we can't and why we can't have that. But when she or he, the person that you just wrote down, they admired that is like understands uncertainty and is willing to change and understands that fear feeling is a kind of requirement, then you get to tap into that version of you. Again, takes practice. All of these things take practice and take time and take awareness of yourself, but that's a very powerful one. And so the next method or lesson is called magnetic vision. Now, I used to start with that. And when Christy talked about vision with me today, or about this chat, I was like, okay, amazing. And then I broke it down. I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about this method for more. And so I used to start with the vision, and I'm going to talk to you about the vision and why magnetic is important. But I realized if we don't first look at the focus, the find your focus part, if we don't then navigate who's calling the shots in our mind, if we don't have a proof of possibility, a target, a vision of the person that has that goal achieved, then the magnetic vision that we have is going to be based on our stinking thinking that we have at the beginning that we might be limited to. Okay. And so the magnetic vision is vision, it's vision boarding. But the reason I call it magnetic, and this is something that I really want to impress upon you, is that magnetic means that you are aligned with it. So I can tell you my vision and you can be like, that sounds great. I'm going to write that down. But if you're like, I don't really want that, and I'll be the first to admit that I would have put up dollar amounts or titles or all sorts of things that were other people's visions for me. And so when you are looking at creating a magnetic vision, it is understanding, what do you want? What makes you happy? The why that makes you cry, something that moves you forward when the time comes that you're going to be faced with that decision, when the moment happens that you're going to want to stop the goal that you set right now. And so magnetic vision really pulls you forward. And it is really about understanding that we get to tap into that next level us and start to work on habits, but that vision of where you want to live or why you want that money, or for me, my latest body transformation was because I want to be a really strong and healthy, vibrant grandma. I don't have grandkids yet. And, maybe I never will, but, I carrying a suitcase going to look at my youngest son plays college ball. And I was carrying my suitcases and I was like, this is why I'm going to the gym, because I want to be carrying these suitcases, 10 years from now or 20 years from now, traveling through Portugal. So that's a magnetic vision that gets me to do the things that I don't necessarily want to do. And so a vision is great. And I used to say motivation without a vision is worthless, because we can motivate you. I can motivate you. Patrick can, Christy can, right? But if you don't know where you want to go and it's not something that you've chosen, and it never has to make sense to anybody, you're not getting graded on your vision. Nobody's vision needs to be too big or too small. Like, you get to own it as yours and you get to feel it. And that will make you start doing the things necessary to have those visions come to life. Okay. So magnetic vision is super, 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 super important. So the fifth is what I call our growth goal. And so we talk about goals here, and Kim was talking about goals, and it's January and we have goals, and there's no denying having goals and targets. The brain just needs them. I think back on a time in my life where I didn't have any things I was moving towards, and life was great and things were just like happening. But the brain is dying for something to move towards, and something to work towards. And so there's different types of goals. And a lot of us have should goals. I should eat chicken. I should run. I should stretch. I should meditate. All these things. Because boy, oh boy, are there a lot of things that we're supposed to do, right? Every day, there's like 5 more things to add to our morning routine. If you start your morning routine at 4 a.m, by the time you're done all the things we're supposed to do, it's 10 at night. Like, how are you supposed to have a day if we do all the things that everybody says, right? And so should goals are, I should do this. I should have this. And then we have someday goals. Someday I will, you know, start a business. Someday I will take care of my skin. Someday I will, write that book. And there's nothing wrong with them, but the energy around those has us, just put them far enough in the future that we don't do anything to move forward. And I've certainly had many, many of those, and we all have all of these. And so the growth goal is deciding on a goal. Once we have our area, right, our focus, then we have our magnetic vision, and we know where we want to go. And it can be big, big vision. It can be little, small things, right? There's all these steps. So our growth goal is tied to our vision. So if part of your magnetic vision is having an abundant bank account, okay, or let's just use that as an example, because why not? Okay, so if that's the example, then a growth goal is tied to you already feeling your bank account abundant. And so I think we can all agree that there's people that have a lot of money that are not happy. And so the dollar amount isn't necessarily what matters. It's the feeling. I remember going and paying for things at Christmas and just being like, oh my gosh, I hope I have money to pay for this. And so I would just be like, what's that feeling of being okay, just tapping and knowing that the groceries are going to be paid for? And so tapping into that type of thing, the growth goal is understanding the vision already achieved. And so growth is change, growth is transformation. And so how I break down a growth goal is that it is based on your thoughts and your actions, because what we do in life is a representation of the way we think and the way we feel. And so when we're looking at a bank account, say, and we're opening it up and we're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to do the things? That's when we spiral. Our feeling is, oh my gosh, I have to make something happen. This is a desperate, desperate time. But we get attached to that feeling. So we freeze. So then we take no action. And then the result we have is that we don't make any more money. And then we just stay on this loop because we prove to ourselves. So a growth goal is harnessing our energy to change the way we think about something. And so if the goal is some financial abundance, financial excess, whatever you want, whatever that looks like for you, then a growth goal is feeling what it feels like to not have to check the bank account when the bills are done. And maybe you don't know what that feels like. I understand that. I would watch movies. I would try to like insert myself into different kind of scenarios to show my brain a movie of what that might be. And so then the growth goal is attached to how would I think? If I had enough money in my bank, how would I think? Well, I probably would not spend any time thinking, how am I going to do all this? I would just have a calmness about me because I'd be able to buy the groceries. I'd be able to buy the presents. And so then my feelings would be much more calm. And so my actions would have me continue to go through life and with a mindset that I am capable and not from that worry perspective. And so the growth goal has you think about when the goal is achieved, when that magnetic vision is achieved, how are you going to think and feel? And so when you start a day, even though your brain, the critic is saying, what are you doing? There's like 0.99 in the bank account. Like, how are you doing this? This is where we are really rooting into our power and changing the way we think. So every morning, if a growth goal is about, I am abundant, my bank accounts are overflowing, then what are the thoughts you have in that morning? And I have people that I work with kind of write that down. What is a dominant thought you can have for today? Maybe it's like a mantra, right? I am wealthy. But when we're saying those things, again, our inner critic is often jumping up saying, but you're not. Like, what are you doing? So the thing about mantras is this game between our mind. And so a growth goal allows you to harness your thought and your feeling, which then goes towards an action. So if a financial abundance is something that is a goal for you, what would be an action that you would take on a daily basis when you are already that person with that abundance? Okay, if that makes sense. That one might be a little harder to explain without my slides or all that jazz. So the last one is called the work. And so how fun is that? We're gonna do some work. Life is about work. Life is about moving forward with things. And so this is something that I started to hear from different coaches and mentors from all the different areas, whether it was a network marketing mentor, a business coach, a health and wellness expert. I kept hearing these letters put together. And so I'm like, if all of these people are talking about it and it's all based on different aspects, it's the root of a lot of transformation. So I just call it the work, but it's just a bunch of letters, CFTAR. So you can write down CFT, Angela's winner, chicken dinner, CFTAR. And this is something that people don't believe me, but I use this all the time. I write it down I'm a scrap of paper girl. I have scraps of paper everywhere. So this is the work of reframing our thoughts. I call it the reframe game because I like things to sound fun. And so when I tell you that this process, this little letters on a piece of paper could be an absolute game changer as you're moving through this method for more, as you're going through things, as you're going through your transformations in whatever areas that you desire. Yep. C stands for circumstance. And that is just fact. There's no emotion attached to that. So stand on the scale, the number says what it is, no emotion attached. I know that seems ridiculous, impossible, but it is possible, right? It's just how much you weigh. Open your bank account, the dollar amounts in the bank account, it's just factual. Whatever it is, the address that you live in is the address that you live in. There's no emotion attached to it. But we as humans, we go and add the emotion, right? Back to the critic, back to the thought and thoughts that we think, and then we take it as reality. And so the circumstance when I'm thinking of things and my brain starts to take me the other way, because it does, naturally, our brains all default there. They all go there. So then I stop and I'm like, hey, what is the circumstance? What is the dollar bank account? What is the thing that I'm thinking of? What is the thing about, all whatever it is? Just what is the item, the circumstance, and then what are you thinking about it right now? And so you get to be very real with yourself. I like to take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle, and I'll write the circumstance, and then I'll write the thought. So if it's a body and the number on the scale, I'll use age, 54 years old. Okay, so 54 years old. So my thought were for sure, uh, uh, too old to get fit. What does it matter? My good years are behind me. These are all thoughts that I had. And so then the feelings that I had associated with that. So whatever circumstance you have, and I do this all the time for all the things. The thoughts were those. So the feelings are attached to the thoughts. So then I would feel less than, I would feel fed up, I would feel frustrated, I would feel sad, right? And then would I do anything to help myself then? No, the actions were no actions. I wouldn't do anything to improve. I would sit, I would get that proof that there's 54-year-olds that are living like they're 80, and I would have that proof, right? And so then the results are you are that lethargic, older than your years, you just kind of given up. And so then as I take that same situation, circumstance, and reframe it, because that is that truth? No. Is it true that 54 means this, and this? No. How do I know that? Because I can find proof of otherwise. I can find proof of possibility. And so the circumstance is still I'm 54. The thought gets to be, or can be, what's the next best thought you can have? So the thought gets to be, what an amazing time to start again. I feel I could live life like I'm 20, but with the wisdom of being 50, and then the feeling starts to be like, whoa, what if this could be what if this could be my season? What if I could be one of those people that they post about on social media that says this person started this business at 70, and so then you start having different feelings around that. You start getting excited, and then you start taking actions because you're coming from a place of excitement, and then you start getting results. And so then you have to kind of keep doing this reframe game over and over again, because the mind goes, and then we have to keep deciding to reframe the thoughts. There's something called the cycle of performance, and it is a cycle of transformation, excuse me. And I made up a dance and I made fun words to it, and it's perfect for this time of year. And the first part is called inception. And that's when you get an idea. And it is when you are unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what you don't know. So this happens a lot in January, right? Where it's like, January, this is my time. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to get rich. I'm going to do all the things, right? All the things that we want to say. And we are super excited. And so you can think of times in your life where you've been like, this is it. This is the book. This is the school. This is the certification I need, whatever it is. And you've got it. And you're so excited. You're just like, this is going to be it. And so I call it that, because I just think that's better than inception. And that's too many words for me. So I call it that, because that feels like energetic to me, right? If you see on my name, I love sparkles, things that make me happy. But then what happens is something called deception. And deception is when you are consciously incompetent, which means you now know what you don't know. And maybe it's the first time you try to do Zoom, and you're like, am I recording? Is this thing on? I don't know what's happening. And so you're sweating and you're all nervous, right? But that's when people stop. I call it splat. So that's when you're like, okay, so I'm not going to get skinny in a day. Okay, I'm not going to get rich overnight. Okay, this is going to take some time. What do you mean? What do you mean? And so instead of fearing that feeling, instead of fearing that time, celebrate it, because you can't get where I'm going to tell you is next without having that. And so that splat part, that deception, that, oh my gosh, okay, is the line in the sand moment. And so you're not going to be the people that stop when the splat happens. You're going to be the person that says, okay, I learned from this crazy Canadian that there's something else after that. Okay. And so that next part is called transformation. And that's when you become consciously competent. So you're like, okay, how do I Zoom? There's a button there. Okay. Click it. You got to think about it. You're going to go to the gym and you're going to learn how to do the machines, but you have to think about it. It takes effort. I call this grow. because this is where you grow. This is where you start moving things. They're not simple. They're not a part of you, but you know that they're necessary. That's part of who she is, who he is, that does the things, right? Those habits. You're like, okay, I think I need water. What do I do? And everything is just like an extra effort. Okay. But that leads you to this beautiful, beautiful spot called identity when you are unconsciously competent. You now are, it's just like easy. It's effortless. You're speaking on a Zoom. You're like doing things with your toes because you can do it. You all of a sudden you wake up and go to the gym at 5 in the morning and you're at 6:30, you're done. You're like, how did that happen? And so I call that flow. And then the cycle continues. And so this beautiful world of transformation, this beautiful world of change that we're talking about here is all these cycles, is all these steps, is all these moments that you get to ask yourself, where am I going? Who is leading the charge? Is it my guide? Is it my coach? That person that I thought about that time, the elements of who she is and who he is and what does he do? I'm going to calm the critic down. I'm going to ask her or him to take a back seat. I'm going to let myself lead here. And I'm going to understand that there's going to be challenges and life's going to life. And every time I get to play the reframe game and I get to ask myself, like, is this true? How can I think a different thought? How can I tell a different story? Seeking the proof to me is the number one thing. And social media gives us the ability to seek the not like the things that we might not serve us, but you can get to choose what is in your feed feeds you. So what is in your social media feed can be the most unbelievable, incredible humans that give, that love, and you will see the world in that way. If you allow the others in, you'll see that world that way. And so your ability to truly control where your life goes is both a scary thing, but it can be the most freeing aspect for you because you are with these incredible people that have the most respect for you and desire for you. And in this world, I've never seen a world where people root for you more. And so you are in the right place at the right time. And I know that I was just touching on all of these elements of the method, but Christy's going to give you some information as well. And I just really, I'm here to answer questions or whatever, but I want to, just really honor you for being here today. And I know that in my time in the personal development space and these amazing souls that I've been blessed to be around, the only thing stopping you is you. And that is like absolute fact. And there is so much beauty and joy and happiness and energy and vitality available for all of us, each and every one of us, that we all get to move through this world together. And to me, I think that's just a beautiful blessing. So thank you for your time tonight.